show, 11 years, nearly 12 on the radio show, I'm getting to the realization that it's really time for people to start looking out for themselves. Make sure you are secure in your own life with your own family, and just prepare for what's coming, because the 99%, the 90% of sleeping masses are going to lead us into this grid anyway, whether we want to be led in there or not. They're just going to go along with it, and that's going to drag all of us into it, and we can do what we can. But just make sure that you are looked after, your family's looked after, and that you have some sort of a plan for, a bug-out bag or whatever you're going to need, because it's all coming down pretty quickly.
Now, in terms of New Zealand, talk to us a little bit more about that specifically. What areas do you know are specifically being turned into smart cities? We kind of see here in the United States, it seems like the plan is to get people off of the coastlines. That's what Deborah Tavares seems to think. But all these, weaponized, technological devices they have, directed energy weapons, geoengineering, starting these wildfires, starting all kinds of crazy storms or whatever, flooding areas out, and then kind of pushing them into maybe areas that they want you to be in. Ultimately, I think people will be dragged into FEMA camps, and I'm not sure if that's a reality in New Zealand or not, whatever you want to call these things, re-education camps or not. But talk to us about the climate in New Zealand, what's happening there, and then also give us an update. I keep track of all the earth changes and a lot of the earthquakes, and I've seen New Zealand since the last time we talked over the past 2 or 3 months. I've had a decent amount of quakes up and around that area. Give us an update what's going on there too.
Well, look, I haven't really kept track of what's going on with the quakes in New Zealand and stuff. I'm not from New Zealand. I'm from Australia, so
okay.
I don't know a lot about what's really going on the ground in New Zealand. I mean, I was kind of looking at all that Christchurch shooting, all that sort of stuff, but I don't really know what's going on.
Australia, then, maybe. I apologize.
Well, the smart cities, I mean, they're really rolling out here quickly. Darwin and there's something like, over 1,000 applications for smart cities here in Australia. Suburbs within cities and stuff like that. You've got a city within a city, whatever. So there's been a lot of applications for, but the success we're having is through the assault laws. Like using the criminal code of each state to figure out what constitutes an assault, and we're pushing back that way. So we're kind of stopping it in that way, but they're going to do it anyway. I mean, they're going to continue it. If we get around it this way, they'll just find another way to push it out. And they've done it before. They've done this before. They eliminate the population and reset the population all the time. I've been really looking at history lately and finding all sorts of remnants of cities and civilizations just like this, with telegraph poles and all sorts of things that exist in the Florida Everglades, and old traces of old suburbs and all this sort of stuff. So it appears that this happens all the time. They just continue to reset the population. Once we start to become too awake, I guess they just wipe us out in some way. How they're going to do it, I mean, it's anybody's guess. There's a lot of predictions out there, like with what Deborah Tavares is saying. I haven't actually listened to a lot of her stuff. I had contact with her, actually. Someone connected us. I've been meaning to have her on the show, or at least have a conversation with her. But I haven't had anybody on the show. I don't have too many people on the show these days. I just don't know who to trust anymore, brother. So I don't know who to have on anymore.
I've done podcasts.
It was
who, after the fact, they'll email me like within 24 hours of doing a podcast, and they'll maybe listen to some rumors or something about me, and I think you might be a shill and this or that. And then they'll actually email me apologizing a week later saying, hey, I'd like to be back on your show. I'm like, what is it? Am I a shill or am I not a shill? Where are you at? So it's crazy out there. Everyone's paranoid.
I get it all the time, man. I get it all the time. You can't disagree with anybody over anything, or you're suddenly a shill, And there's no discussion. It's shill.
Right.
As soon as you disagree with anything, you're a paid agent. It's crazy.
Now, when we're talking about 5G, Max, I raised a point the other day, and I forget who my guests are. I brought on so many guests, I fail to forget what I was, what specific guest. But I raised the point. With 5G, the EMFs, we all know it's harmful to our health, breakdown, of the cellular function, but then also just basically it's a giant mind control tool. But I argue, perhaps this is what the New World Order wants, is a world on edge. You see it kind of in the world around us, whether we're building towards, a large-scale war or revolutions in each country. It seems like, as you mentioned, you can't disagree on a certain point without someone, like, lashing out at you. Like, God forbid you say something against Trump. I mean, I talk about walking the fine line. You could lose an awful lot of friends on Facebook in one day by talking about Trump. Because I know you and I agree it's all theater. But my goodness, maybe there's something a little bit more to that. Maybe with these frequencies, they're controlling and manipulating behavior a little bit. I don't know. What do you think? Is that too far?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, emotional control through frequency, absolutely. I mean, they do this all the time. They can induce, just look at the data patents. There's, you go to my website, go to the recommended reading section or essential reading section, and there should be a list there of 100 data patents for EMF mind control, this sort of stuff. So emotional control, that sort of stuff. Yeah, they can do all of this through frequencies, and you're right. They want us all completely stressed out. And even with the health aspects of 5G, I mean, the health aspects are very bad. But there's a lot of people saying, "Oh, as soon as they turn it on, we're all going to get cancers, we're all going to melt down, everyone's going to die." And when that doesn't happen, people will throw the baby out with the bathwater as well. You know, what it's really all about is the surveillance grid. I mean, and it's a weapons system. Sure, they can target you, they can cause health defects, they can cause all sorts of things. But ultimately, it's about surveillance. It's about mass surveillance, the Internet of Things, everything talking to everything else, everything with a camera in it, everything with a chip in it. You know, complete lack of privacy on all aspects of it, every single place. You know, you won't even have privacy in your bedroom. The way it is in China at the moment, and in Dubai, there's people say it's like living with a stranger standing in your bedroom. That's what it's like, the surveillance state over there. So that's the really bad aspects of 5G. That's what people aren't realising, and everyone's scared of all this other stuff, and and they're just waiting for these health problems and all this stuff. They're not really looking at the other aspects of it. And that's the important part, you know, the surveillance and the tracking and the fact that they will have tabs on absolutely everything everybody does. And then they'll just squeeze people out of the system. You just suddenly become an undesirable. That's how the FEMA camps will fill up.
Yeah.
You know, and people won't even see the disappearances. They'll just disappear. And no one will even want to ask about the disappearances, because if you ask about it, you might become a person of interest. The way it is in China. You know, they've got all the Muslims disappearing in China. They're going to what are called vocational centres for re-education, and you just don't talk about it, you know. And because they don't want people wearing head burqas and headdresses, they don't want anyone covering up, you know, and none of this stuff, because everything in China is going to be, you know, total mass surveillance of everybody. So, and you know, whether you like Muslims or not, you can look at that. Okay, this is a targeted population, and what's happening to them. Doesn't matter whether you like Muslims or not. It's like that old quote by Pastor Nimolia, you know, when they came for the trade unionists. I didn't complain because I wasn't a trade unionist. It's the same thing, you know. They're coming for the Muslims. People aren't complaining because they're not Muslims. They want to see the Muslims go away. They don't realise that this is all technology that's going to be brought out and come to you as well. They're just using it to test it on these people to see how the public reacts. Oh, you're okay with that? Okay, well, now we come for the next group, and then the next group, and then the next group, and then we come for you. And that's what it's about.
Yeah, that's what they continue to do right here on Max Igan's YouTube channel, folks. He's got several gate talks over the past, month, discussing this dystopia rising situation that we're dealing with. What the government is doing is worse than you could ever imagine. I recently had on Robert Steele and Bill Binney, the ex-NSA whistleblower. I'm sure you've seen all his videos. He's all over the place. And he argues it's worse than 1984. And I put him on the spot. He's like, Eric, right now it's far worse than 1984 could have ever depicted, and it's going to continue to get worse. So what should we look forward to next, if we could say it like that? I mean, we already know it's happening now, but ultimately, how much worse could it get?
Oh, it can get a lot worse, yes. It can get a lot worse yet. When we can't buy or do anything without tracking, when we need thumb scans, when we need cards, when you simply cannot buy it, it'll get to the point where if you do not become part of this system, you will not be able to purchase anything, and that's when it gets bad. And that's what's coming. I mean, unless we can push back against it, that's what's coming. I mean, I see all this as an opportunity for human freedom, but I think through it all, I mean, ultimately this is a soul harvest. It's a spiritual battle, the whole thing. So even as it does get worse and worse, you've just got to get stronger and stronger and shine your light brighter and brighter. And that's all I will continue to do. If they take me down, well, I don't have any fear of death anyway. So, that's what it's going to come to, Eric. It's really going to come to people just standing up and saying no. And if we don't, then we're going to get led into that system. If we don't go, then we'll have to face the consequences. It's just going to be as simple as that. There's not going to be any way around it. We can change it, and if we don't, then we're screwed. Simple.
Now, what do you make of, well, let me follow up with this. Yeah, of course, it's in Scripture, the mark of the beast system. From our perspective in the Catholic world, it's always been taught since the earliest proponents, the earliest apostles that talked about how the Antichrist would be a Jew. He would have this system, this one world. Eventually, it'll be a communist system. I argue it's going to go from socialism during the tribulation and morph into all-out communism, kind of fulfilling what Lenin says, the end game of socialism is communism. So right now, it's all, we got to share the world's wealth, and we all got to come together and share and do this and that. And then at a certain point, the Antichrist will show us true colors. Then it's, they'll come for not only you, but they'll come for your property. They're going to come for everything. They're going to see you as a personal asset. So I agree with you there. In any case, I wanted to get your take, your analysis, if we could move over to Trump specifically now. Feel free to piggyback off anything I just said. But I don't know if you saw this, but Epstein apparently has now been charged. And so there's a lot of, I know what I was going to ask. It was the whole populism movement. Let's move into that. Populism, the revolutions that we're kind of seeing now, is this staged or controlled opposition, or is this genuine in your opinion? Can the Rothschilds control that?